It's no secret that the fictional romantic relationship between Astrid Hofferson and Hiccup is my absolute favorite of any franchise. Likewise, the romance developed in the third film between Toothless and the elusive Lightfury is equally adorable and well done. In fact, since my first viewing of the final film, I've noted how similar these two relationships are. Recently, since I've been quite hyped up for the new short coming this December, mostly hyped. You can check the description below for more videos about everything concerning the short. I've taken to binge watching lots of old and new YouTube videos about How to Train Your Dragon. In the midst of this marathon, my mind has been so preoccupied with this crazy idea of how similar these two couples are. I've come to realize that this was intentional. The relationship between Toothless and the Lightfury was intended to directly mirror that of Hiccup and Astrid's. Hey y'all, I'm the Geek Apprentice, and you know, recording on Sundays means having to deal with people mowing their lawn even though it's like 90 degrees outside, which is dumb. But oh well. This idea is something that I have been sitting on since my second or third viewing of the third film, so roughly 8 months. As previously stated, I noticed these parallels during my first viewing of the film. However, it wasn't until my next few viewings that I would begin to see that the strength of and the amount of these similarities were just absolutely staggering and had to be planned on the part of Dean DeBlois and his crew. I've said it before and I'll say it again, when it comes to at least the films in this franchise, nothing is a coincidence and no detail is overlooked. An immense amount of care has been put into this franchise, especially the films, and that is just one of the many aspects I love about the How to Train Your Dragon cast, crew, and franchise as a whole. And the parallel relationships of the chief and his dragon with their respective loves is no exception to this. My hypothesis is that the development, issues, and overall relationship of Toothless with his beloved Lightfury was intended to, on some scale, mirror that of the relationship between Hiccup and Astrid, most especially certain issues that were highlighted between them in How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. Early on in the third film, we already know that Hiccup and Astrid have been betrothed for quite some time, but have yet to get married. Gobber heavily encourages it, seeing that Hiccup needs Astrid by his side to talk some sense into him. Hiccup is all for it as well, however Astrid clarifies they are not ready. Perhaps on some level, Astrid was ready, but she was waiting for Hiccup to mature a tiny bit more. She loves him to be sure and has no doubts about spending the rest of her life with him, but she is well aware that Hiccup is not ready for marriage if he's still going to rely so heavily on Toothless in everyday aspects, but especially his chiefing duties. But from Hiccup's point of view, he feels like he's leading alone, and this is something that Valka points out, saying that he feels like he does need to lead alone, following in his father's footsteps, not at all realizing the strength that he would have as a chief if he worked with Astrid by his side. So how on earth does Toothless wooing a Lightfury reflect all of that? Well, let's get to the comparisons. Before comparing the two couples themselves, I would like to first compare specific characters, starting with Hiccup and Toothless. One of the beautiful parallels between these two best friends is their physical appearance. Toothless has a prosthetic left tail fin, and Hiccup a prosthetic left leg. Hiccup has a scar on the right side of his chin from an encounter as an infant with Cloudjumper, the dragon that would become Valka's dragon. Notably, Toothless has a minor scar on the right underside of his neck, though we don't know where it came from. Both of these characters have fierce green eyes and dark coloring, Toothless obviously having jet black scales, and Hiccup having dark brownish hair. And finally, Valka points out in the second film that these two are in fact the same exact age. Concerning their personalities, a lot of it I think is pretty self-explanatory, so I'll just bullet point. Both exude somewhat annoyed sarcasm a lot. When confident and determined, they are forces to be reckoned with and make unlikely but strong leaders. When less confident, both are extremely but adorably awkward. At the end of the second film, both stepped into huge leadership roles, Chief and Alpha Dragon. Lastly, both seem to have a taste for blue-eyed, fair, independent women. more on that later. Now how about Astrid and the Lightfury? Physically, there isn't much, but here's what I've got. These two characters share striking blue eyes, and both are also fairer in coloring. Obviously the Lightfury has bright white scales, and Astrid has very fair colored hair. I mean, it used to be more yellow in the first couple of films, but now it's like really light, but either way, even with yellow, lighter hair color, so they're both fair. Now personality is where these two really begin to line up. Independent and fiercely so. Both can easily handle life on their own and are not afraid to stand up for themselves. In addition, they seem to demand a good level of independence in their partners as well, but we'll get to that later. While they are each very content on their own, they do find joy in supporting their respective loves and partners, making them leaders alongside them. These two are fighters. This goes along with the independence trait, but both are warriors. We know Astrid has identified as one many times, not just with her obvious actions, but also verbally a few times in the Netflix series. The Lightfury also shows her prowess and ability to fight when she saves both Hiccup and Toothless at the end of How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. Alright, so it's obvious how the individual characters relate, but what about the couples themselves? Both relationships begin awkwardly. Hiccup clearly has a huge crush on Astrid from the beginning, but she, in large part, doesn't really notice him much because she's so focused on being a warrior. That is until she witnesses him with confidence and sees his true character shine, one that he has never even really known himself. It is then that she takes an interest in him, the real him, the one that no one's even seen before, opening her mind up to both his ideas and ideals, something we learn from her in the third film when she directly states that she's who she is today because of him. Then there's Toothless, who with the, help, if you want to call it that, of Hiccup is pretty silly in his attempts to woo the Lightfury initially. However, once he begins drawing something he's more confident in, she takes notice and starts becoming more attracted to him. As far as the development of the relationships, for both couples, there is a smooth progression. For Hiccup and Astrid, they're friends, they joke, they banter, they kid around, but ultimately do rely on one another for advice and help. A very genuine and authentic bond. For Toothless and the Lightfury, it's within their nature to be very attracted to one another despite being slightly different species. They are, however, both Furies, Lightfury and Nightfury, and Furies mate for life, meaning that any bond between them will be deep. And once Toothless is able to fly on his own, their friendship starts, strengthens, and eventually grows into something more. While neither couple has huge, pardon the pun, hiccups in their respective journeys, the ones that do arise in the third film are essentially the same. Yes, I know there's that one episode in Race to the Edge where Astrid gives the betrothal gift back, but that was really short-lived and didn't even last a whole day, so yeah, moving on. As already established, the highlighted issue between Astrid and Hiccup in the third film preventing them from getting married is his over-reliance on Toothless for his chieftain duties rather than his own abilities and eventually Astrid. Remember how I noted earlier that both the Lightfury and Astrid seem to demand a certain level of self-assurance from their partners? Yeah, that comes into play here. Now for Toothless, when the Burkians are all flying to a new land, the Lightfury finally shows up. Last we saw her, she left because Toothless was not able to fly on his own, and she saw Hiccup in the background helping him. When she appears here, she throws Hiccup off of Toothless and kind of smiles back at him like, look, I fixed the problem, I got rid of the human. Except Toothless needs Hiccup in order to be able to fly. Something he never minded before because he never had a reason to fly on his own anyway. However, now it's preventing him from being with the Fury that has captured his heart. The Lightfury gets confused when she sees Toothless rescue Hiccup and ultimately flies off. She wants Toothless, not Toothless and Hiccup. Likewise, Astrid wants to marry Hiccup, not Hiccup and Toothless. See what I'm getting at? Both Hiccup and Toothless are leaders in their respective circles. As we see in the beginning of the final film, while everyone does get along, by bringing all of these dragons to Berk as a way of saving them, is not actually saving them, but in fact putting everyone, human and dragon alike, at risk. So, the hidden world is the safest place, but only for the dragons. Meaning these two leaders have to separate so they can follow their destinies as strong leaders. But they both have amazing partners to be there for them in Astrid and the Lightfury, two characters who in their own ways were trying to reveal that reality to them throughout the whole film, difficult as it was to accept. It's not as if Astrid was super keen on sending Stormfly away. You see that in her face when Hiccup realizes it has to be all the dragons leaving, not just Toothless. So she has to accept that reality as well. Ultimately, throughout the third film, we see how these two amazing characters, Astrid and Lightfury, play extremely similar roles in the lives of their respective partners, Hiccup and Toothless, guiding them to fully stepping into the roles they are meant to be in as leaders, chief and alpha dragon, as husbands or dragon partner, and eventually as fathers. I just love how the journey and relationship of these two couples so clearly mirror each other. It's so beautiful. Two awkward but strong leaders who each discover their own amazing woman to lead beside them and help them fulfill their destinies. Nice job, DreamWorks. What do you think? Do you see all these parallels in the relationships as well? Let me know how much you love these two couples in the comment section below. And hey, if you're new here, maybe consider sharing this with your friends and possibly subscribing. Also, check out these other How to Train Your Dragon videos of mine, like this one where I theorize if Hiccup is ambidextrous, or this one where I look into the deeper meaning of those braids Astrid put in his hair. But that's all for today. Thank you for watching.